Hi, Simon here, GM8NYV. I'm going to continue with the CR100 restoration. Over the last couple of weeks I've done little bits and pieces. Slowly started to build up some of the main components on the top and finish off some of the wiring inside. Still the coil pack to go in, and that's to be wired up. And at the moment I've mounted the transformer and I shall start to wire that up. So I shall zoom in with the cam, let you see. As you can see, it's the top of the chassis. Still doesn't have the main capacitor on, but you can see how far I've gone. This is the high frequency pot here. It's wired up to the appropriate place. I've also got the BFO in, or the IF cans are in. At the back there you can see just about the mains transformer now mounted in, which needs to be wired up, which I shall start soon. You also notice a few wires sticking out here. Now these wires here, I've just stuck them down so they don't flap about. These are all purple wires, I've marked them here. They're used for the noise limiter addition that was added on here. So these they go to the valve that's sitting on the top. These here are for the audio transformer. They're wired in, and these two little ones here are the 100 Hz filter. So maybe zoom in a bit better, you see it. Right, I'll turn the chassis over and we'll see what it looks like underneath, how far I've got. Well, there it is, upside down. It's getting quite a weight now with the transformer in. Originally I'd put this bar in over the transformer. Here's the transformer here, and I was going to mount the tag strip on it and connect up cables to this tag strip, make it easier and take less strain on it. But on second thoughts and closer look at the transformer, I think the heater wires are I'm just going to heat shrink these. And these are I'll heat shrink them as well, and they go directly to this valve, so they're probably better just to do them directly again, and they're not going to be disturbed. So that's I think I'll go down that route. Again, this one is going to, this is the main heaters. This outer wire cable, this one I've got sheathed in white is the heater for the rectifier. These are the 350 volt outputs to the anodes of the rectifier. The center, I have to redo that, I think, but that goes through this hole here and off to a fuse and then down to the ground. So that's the fuse in the secondary side. On the primary side you've got two heater wires. This one also goes through the tapping on through the hole as well to a small link for tapping the heaters. This is grounded, and then the two mains ones are these. Now then, I'm not going to do exactly as it was original for the mains. I'm going to use an IEC socket, which is this one here. It's like kettle plug. Right, this was the original mains input. It also had a DC input as well if it was ever used. I'm not going to use the DC input obviously, so I'm going to use it. This almost fits in, although it's got a gap round it. So what I've done, I've made a small template. So this will fit. So this will fit into the template here. That will go onto there, and then that obviously go through there. So that's it there. Just a small piece of copper. I sprayed it grey. Filed, cut a hole and filed it to suit the profile. So that will bolt on there, like that. So that's the main side. I'm going to bring it foot. Now then, it's getting quite crowded in there. I also want to mount this. I'm going to use one of these. They use two big capacitors mounted on. If I just spin it around, they had two big capacitors mounted on here, connected to the mains input. I'm going to mount this somewhere. Probably mount it in here. Now this is a commercial inline filter. Load on one side, line on the other, one's there. Designed for spade connectors. I don't need to put spade connectors on, I'm going to solder the connections on here. So to work out exactly where that's going to go, I'm going to have to mount that capacitor is going to go in there. So that's in the bottom one, that's going to go in there. It's going to be quite compact there. So what I'll do the wiring that's needed onto the rectifier valve. I shall use a small piece of this tag strip on here just for the main side, because they are quite weak, the mains wires in, and also, as I say, it's going to be altered slightly. Right, that's the socket mounted here. Zoom in a bit. Just see behind it there's the little plate, so it's got the plate behind it held on by the 4 screws, and that's the IC socket. Fits in there quite firmly. The clips that hold it in are just like little spring clips that pop out there, because it's the thickness of the metal and the copper plate. I had to sort of trim them off a bit, so when it pushed it in, it went in with a good click. So that's the socket in. I'm quite happy with it, it's quite firm. This is a zoom out here. There we go. That fits in quite nicely. That's the kettle type plug. Now what I don't like about this one, and there's a moulded one, it's quite long, it sticks out quite a long way, which will stop you pushing the receiver back. You have to have a bit of a space, but you can get these at 90-degree angles, which I think I shall use one of those. Right, below that you can see I've fitted the capacitor, which was the original case of this triple capacitor, 38 UFs. I put the modern equivalents in, much smaller equivalents, and one of the chokes, it's L64, L65, the other way around, doesn't really matter, it's wide across the capacitors there. Right, I'll have to turn this round and we'll see the connections I've done. Right, this are the capacitors I put in, the 2 capacitors, this in here, the other choke there. You can see the back of that new socket and a little plate round it there. Zoom in, might be a better view. This obviously needs to be clipped in. The coil pack's going to sit in here, so that'll go around the edge of the coil pack there. If I move the camera a bit closer, you can see there in the piece of tag strip. I didn't use all the tags. I decided to wire the heaters directly in the EHT or the HT cables instead of trying to bend them round. So these outer ones here are the heaters for the valve rectifier. These red ones here on the inside are the HT 350 volts, I believe, and there's a center tap which runs underneath through a hole, and that will go to a fuse, and that will fuse the secondary of the transformer. Now on the top there, it's quite close, this piece of tag strip has plastic insulation underneath it, a sheet of plastic, and it's mounted on this piece of metal here. So that's the neutral coming in, and I've got the live coming in here. Now it's sitting with the coil pack in place, there's also this to go over. So it's getting quite crowded in there. I'll just put this in. This is the case for the BFO tag board. I'll put in roughly there. As you can see, it's still getting quite tight there. These are the cables that are going to tie them down. Just push them down out of the way. So you can just see the transformer there. If I move this a little, easy. Now I'm going to mount this filter, and I think the best place is to mount it on here. It'll sit there quite nicely there. I think there's quite a lot of space between the coils and the case here. On this one, the HF coil is very little, so we'll drill into here. So I'm going to mount it on here. That'll sit quite nicely on there, and we'll see how we get on. Well, that's it in place. I've bolted onto the side of this one here, and it's not too bad. It's not in the way. I can still get these cables underneath. That's more or less all that's going in this bit. Now all I have to do is wire this up to here. These will be obviously wired to the switch at the front, and then back to the switch to the live and neutral on here. So that's the next thing to do, is to wire up, maybe not, just get the wires in. There's a few things I want to do before I put the coil pack in there. One other point, this is the back of the radio again. I put the coil pack in is to connect up this Paxlin strip here that held the terminals. These were the terminals for the speaker and the aerial. Now there's 6 of them all together, and on mine, unfortunately, I only had 2 of the nuts were on them. These are nailed nuts on the end here. There's stainless steel by the looks of things, and it's imperial thread on it, but there are only 2 left on mine. 2 of the actual nailed nuts. I mean, all the bases were intact. But what I did find on the internet was some very similar, but they were made of brass. These little brass ones here, but they're M4. They had different sizes, but I got M4s, and I retapped this to M4, and it screws in quite nicely. It's a bit longer than the original, so I need to cut off 4mm, and that's obviously, they fit in there 6 altogether, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's it. I'm happy with the socket that's gone on here. The choke transformer, it's getting quite a weight now. It's amazing how much weight's in this and the 2 chokes. One thing I'm not sure what to do next, whether to put the coil pack in first, because if I put the coil pack in, which would be handy to do, I can then concentrate on the top components. But with the coil pack in, it's going to be very awkward. In this corner here, there's a little slot where the cords go up for the drum, for the tuning drum. Now that's going to be tricky to do with the coil pack in. On the other hand, if I put that frame on first with the capacitor, I can't really turn the radio over. Anyway, I'll come on, think about what to do next. Right, thanks for watching. I hope you liked it, and give it a point on how far I'm getting with the radio. And click like if you like the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.